What's good, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking about the new album from Metro Boomin, Heroes and Villains. Now, I was a huge fan of his last album, Not All Heroes Wear Capes, even so much that I even got it on vinyl. I loved how Metro let his instrumentals speak for him so much that even on an album that had so many guest features from multiple different rappers and singers, it still felt distinctly like a Metro Boomin project. So going into this, I had high hopes that I'd be getting the same thing or at least something close to what I got on his previous album. So let's just get into it and talk about what I liked and maybe didn't like on his new project. The strings in the instrumental feel incredibly grandiose, along with the backing choir vocals to create this larger-than-life feeling. When the drums finally come in too, they just hit so hard and also contribute to that feeling as well, even if it's only for a short amount of time. John Legend sounds like he's giving it his all on the vocal end, which greatly benefits the rest of the song as well. Then Morgan Freeman of all people comes in to give a little spoken word section before a sample of Homelander comes in. I was kind of surprised to hear Homelander on this song, honestly, but it does contribute to the theme of the album, which it's named after, so I do like its addition. Overall, it's a good introduction track that sets the theme for the rest of the album, and readies the listeners for the actual songs that are on the way. I'm feeling a 7.5 out of 10 on this one. I love how the previous track flows into this one using those same muffled horns in the instrumental. The first instrumental is overall just alright to me. It's nothing amazing, but it gets the job done well enough for Future to do his thing over. Until Metro adds these pretty little bells which slightly elevate the first instrumental for me, since they add this creepy ethereal element to the beat. Future himself is just kind of doing his regular thing, honestly. He's not going crazy hard, but he's doing well enough, I guess, but it's not really stand out by Future standards to me personally. The second instrumental is more engaging to me personally as it has these despondent keys that create this sense of urgency. Chris Brown handles the vocals, and much like Future, they're just fine by Chris Brown standards. Overall, the song is decent, but I'm not wowed by it personally, but it's not a bad song one bit. I think a 6 out of 10 is appropriate for this song. The instrumental in the song is very bouncy, yet dark and intoxicating, which is probably one of my favorite combinations when it comes to trap instrumentals. I love that short, rising, jagged synth that constantly comes in and out, mixed with that constant bell pattern that sounds almost buried in the background. It really adds to the ambiance of Metro's instrumental. Don Toliver sounds good vocally, as he always does of course, with his very distinct and ear-grabbing voice. Don's flow is pretty catchy as well, and will definitely keep me coming back to the song again and again. Future then handles the outro well, which leads into the next song. Overall, I really like this song, and at this point, while listening, it's my favorite on the album so far. It's really laid back, cold, and moody, while still having a driving drum beat, which is such a perfect combination instrumentally, only to have a great performance from Don as well. I'm feeling an 8.5 out of 10 on this one. Much like Travis over top of it, this instrumental sounds incredibly tired. There's not much going on except for some dark ambiance produced by these cold sounding keys and low pass bells, which I love. The ARP at the end is also incredibly pretty, and I just wish it was more present throughout the song because I do like it a lot as well. All of this is behind these slow moving drums, only for the drums to then pick up the pace on the verses, which adds much more life to them. If I'm being honest, however, these slower drums in the chorus paired with the faster drums on the verse is pretty jarring and not in a flattering way to me personally. I'm not sure why, but I just can't get behind this transition in the drum pattern, and it happens more than once throughout the song. I personally would have just liked the faster paced drums throughout the entire song, but that's just me. I still like the beat overall, so it's not a big deal. Travis himself, as I said earlier, just sounds tired over this beat, but it fits it, so it's acceptable to me as they go well together. The way he drags out the last syllable in his delivery, however, does get a bit tiresome after a while. He does change his flow and delivery up in the verses, however, which adds more variation, which is nice. and it makes him sound much more awake as the verses go on. Although, like I said, I realize this song doesn't necessarily need a huge amount of energy from Travis, and the performance he does give suits the instrumental well, even if I do think it gets a bit monotonous at times. His performance was fine for the song, but it didn't wow me, you know? Overall, the song is just a vibe, and I could see myself enjoying it as I drive at night. It could have been a bit better, but I still like it a decent bit. The song's an 8 out of 10 to me. This instrumental is so cool and hard. I like it a lot with that constant foreboding key hitting over and over. Metro also adds these other pretty and glimmering accents that appear throughout the instrumental that offset the dark keys, which makes me like it even more personally. 21's verses on this song of course go pretty hard, and of course have some good lines here and there, as per usual. It's Nudi's verse, however, that is really the standout to me personally. And it's mostly because of the flow and delivery that he chooses to use. It's so catchy, and the way that he raises his pitch on the last two syllables of his lines really just somehow make this song go even harder. Overall, this is a hard, cold-blooded banger, which is to be expected from a song by these three, honestly, so I like it quite a bit, obviously. The song's an 8 out of 10 to me. Those Nazi kick drums almost sound like they belong in a Jersey club song, and I love how they're mixed with that spacey synth. It makes me feel like I'm on another planet or something. I do wish that these Jersey club drums continued for the remainder of the song, but the actual drum beat that comes in is adequate enough for me. Travis then comes in sounding like he's on 808s and Heartbreak with that vocal filter over top of his voice in the intro. Travis's flow and delivery on his actual verse is decent enough, and he does sound much better to me personally than he did on Raindrops. Young Thug is also on the song, and he is entertaining and expressive on his verse, as he always is, which I can appreciate. And his verse even brings back that kick pattern that I enjoyed so much towards the end, so I love that, of course. The ending also brings in some strings and more aspects of the instrumental that add to that spacey, ethereal feeling. Travis's outro also adds that vibe somehow, honestly. I just love how disjointed his lines are. Overall, it's a good song. I like it. Mostly for the instrumental Metro gave us, but Travis and Thug sound good over top of it as well. I'm feeling an 8 out of 10 on this one. The ARP, woodwinds, and respace in this instrumental are so nice, along with the faster drum beat. What sounds like strings or could just be a synth also comes later on in the instrumental, which sounds just gorgeous. Metro once again made a great beat, but that's to be expected at this point, honestly. Don Tolliver's on vocals again, and just as last time, his voice just sounds so expressive and distinct. And honestly, I believe that vocally at least, there's very little that can go wrong with Don in most situations. Although I did like his previous performance a bit more than this one, if I'm being honest. The drums then go halftime and evidently go quite a bit harder than they were previously, and Don does switch it up a bit to match the changing instrumental on the bridge as well, which I appreciate. Overall, it's just a good song I'm probably gonna come back to, of course. I'm feeling an 8 out of 10 on this song. Those swirling pads in the instrumental, along with this reverb mallet that comes in and out, are so ghostly and go so well with those trap drums. These swirling children's vocals, along with the dark piano, also come in on the chorus to expand upon the beat and make it go even harder in my opinion. Young Thug's first verse is okay and just passable to me, but his second verse really goes off for me. Flow-wise, of course. His flow is so catchy and unrelenting on the song. I just love it so much because he just keeps going and going. Overall, it's just a pretty good song. There's no complaints here. I don't think it's the greatest thing ever, but I like it. It's good. I'm feeling a 7.5 out of 10 on this song. This instrumental goes hard. It feels more or less like a continuation of the instrumental on the previous song. It's not the craziest instrumental, but I do like it. Don's verse also goes hard, and Future's hook is somewhat catchy, I suppose. It's a short little interlude, which is a banger, but overall, I feel as if there's not much for me to talk about here. It's good, however. The song's a 7 out of 10 to me. This instrumental isn't doing a whole much for me personally until those very pretty and glistening bells come in towards the second half. I like those a lot. I also wish that the drums that come in On the second chorus, we're just present on the rest of the song. Instead of having the instrumental transition from these two different styles of drums, much like Raindrops, it's just jarring to me, although even more so here. The Weeknd also, honestly, unfortunately sounds as if he's just phoning it in on this song. It's not a bad performance. I don't think he has a bad vocal performance on any song he's on. It's just that the lyrical content is not special at all in regard to The Weeknd on this song, in my opinion, and his delivery isn't necessarily going above and beyond for his standards as well. This performance just feels like it could have been on any other song that features The Weeknd personally. It does sound good vocally though, of course. 21 also just kind of felt like an unnecessary addition to the song as well, even if his addition fits the theme of the song lyrically. I just don't think he really fit the vibe of this song with his delivery, and I feel like this song could have just had only The Weeknd on it, and it would have been better for it, even if I don't think it's the most jaw-dropping Weeknd performance ever. Overall, this is probably my least favorite on the album, which is unfortunate because I love all three of these artists a lot, but I just think that this song sounds kinda awkward and half-hearted to me personally. I unfortunately think the song is a 5 out of 10.
Ratchet bitches wanting Frenchies, not Philippe. That's the type that put me in my mood.
Those keys are so somber and catchy paired with that rubbery bass line and those bouncy drums. The string section that Metro brings in is exceptional as well, and overall creates a pretty good instrumental. Travis and 21 give decent performances as well over top the instrumental to overall create a pretty good song. Overall, it's just a good song. It's nothing special by the standards of all three, but it's good nonetheless. The song is a 7 out of 10 to me.
All these choppers, I can open up a gun stove.
The first instrumental has these urgent sounding keys and this airy effect that also comes in constantly, which I love. The keys then transition into this more eloquent and creepy section, which makes me enjoy the first instrumental even more, honestly. Over this hard instrumental, 21 does a good performance and creates a pretty catchy hook with the constant repetition of the title. The verses have him talking about his usual topic, which of course is violence. And 21's performance is a complete and utter juxtaposition from Mustafa's performance on the second half of the song, who gives off a very somber, soft yet impactful performance as he reflects and questions the very violence that 21 was rapping about. The contrast definitely feels intentional, and I appreciate that a lot. His performance is over top a somber and subdued instrumental to match his delivery and subject matter as well. It's very ethereal with these low-pass pads, soft keys, and driving kick drums, until the strings come in, and drums as well, and create a grandiose feeling. Overall, this is a very good song, and probably my favorite song overall on the album. I love both parts for very different reasons, of course. The song is a 9 out of 10 to me.
I just switched the phone, got a new technique. I had to get it going, put a lock on me.
The Spanish guitar is very nice, but overall the instrumental isn't wowing me like some other instrumentals on this album have so far. Travis once again sounds exhausted on this hook, but unlike Raindrops, I don't think the rest of the song really calls for a delivery like this, so I'm personally not a fan of his delivery on the hook. Future brings a pretty catchy flow, however, on his verse, but overall it's just a decent Future verse. I'm not big on Travis's verse either, in all honesty. The instrumental I was indifferent on, however, does change up and begins to get incredibly gorgeous with these pads and bells that come in that sound so ethereal. Travis and Future don't do much over the top of it, but they do sound passable enough, and on the song overall as well. The song is just alright to me. The change up in the instrumental is what saved it mostly for me, but Travis and Future were just passable for the most part. The song is a 6.5 out of 10 to me.
Magazine like you, GQ, yeah, I'm G like you.
First off, rest in peace Takeoff, of course. Now, I do like the sample of the song, and the drum beat that matches it does go hard as well, but I have no strong opinions on this instrumental overall. It's just fine to me, I guess. I'm also honestly not a fan of Rocky's delivery or flow. It just feels very vapid and gets a bit old as he continues, and doesn't change it all that much until his second verse, which changes up, and I appreciate that. I like Takeoff's verse much more, honestly. Even though it does have the same flow, I just like his actual delivery much better. I just like his deep voice and think it sounds good over this instrumental. Overall, I don't hate the song, I kinda like it, but I don't love it, you know? So this song is a 6 out of 10 to me.
This time around we want all the money. This time around we want all the money.
The instrumental Metro made is just fine to me, honestly. I have no strong opinion on it either way, although I do like that crow sample. That was an interesting addition. Gunna himself sounds like he always does over top of it, honestly, and it's nothing really all that special. Overall, this song just sounds like it could have been on any Gunna project, and I'm probably not gonna come back to it much because it just doesn't feel very special at all, honestly. The song's a 5 out of 10 to me. So this album is 15 tracks long if you count the bonus track, and clocks in at just under 15 minutes, which is pretty perfect for an album to me personally. It's not too long and it's not too short. It hits that sweet spot for me, so I enjoy that a lot about this album. Track sequencing doesn't matter much, however I do love how many of these songs flow into one another. It keeps the album feeling seamless, which I love. I do like Fiyaaaah as an outro as well, even if I don't love the song itself. It gives the album this grand outro. However, I wish Walking Down was a song that came before, since I believe it sums up the theme of heroes and villains well with its juxtaposition between the two parts, while Lock On Me just sounds like a song that could have been anywhere on the album. On Time is also a grand intro that sets the vibe and theme of this album so well, so no complaints there. Speaking of vibe and theme, this album goes through many different moods, so I can appreciate the variety that Metro gives us. The theme itself is about heroes and villains, which, as I said earlier, is well illustrated on track 12 of Walkin' Down, but not really focused on throughout the rest of the album, except for certain spoken word sections by Morgan Freeman and Rocky, as well as the Homelander sample on Time. Overall, it's not something that detracts from the album for me personally if a theme isn't focused on much. The way the music itself sounds is far more important to me, and I do like the music here for the most part. I believe that a 7.5 is perfect for my overall feelings on the sequencing, theme, length, vibe, and basically everything surrounding the music on this album. So if you add that 7.5 along with all the ratings I gave all the songs in this album, you get a 7.1 out of 10 overall. I believe this album starts out decent enough with the first 2 tracks, then just goes on a streak of great songs with tracks 3 to 8. Everything after that is really hit or miss for me, however, although track 12 is most definitely a hit and is my favorite, of course. I don't think this album ends very strong, however, especially with tracks 13 to 15, although I do know 15 is a bonus track technically, but I don't think they're bad songs on this album at all. I just think that some are a little more underwhelming than others, unfortunately. My favorite songs were definitely Walk 'Em Down, Too Many Nights, Trance, Umbrella, and Around Me. My least favorites were Creepin and All the Money, which again I realize is a bonus track, so it doesn't matter much overall to the greater context of the album. But this album was good, and I liked it decently enough. However, I still do prefer Not All Heroes Wear Capes personally. However, I also realize that it's also not entirely fair to compare the two, since I've had 4 years to sit with his previous album, and essentially 4 days to sit with this one. I would not be surprised if this album grew on me over time, and I came to enjoy it much closer to the level of enjoyment I have for Not All Heroes Wear Capes. This album did succeed where his previous album did as well, which was making this album feel distinctly like a Metro Boomin project, even with all the features and different voices to be found on it. I'm still always going to be excited for anything Metro and his collaborators have coming, since I know even though I may not like all of them, there will be several tracks that I will absolutely love, and it will be an amazing experience overall. So thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see y'all next time.